providing in-depth coverage of the Dallas Cowboys like no one else can. This is the Silver Star Nation preseason special.
Hello, everybody. I'm Wess Moore. Thank you for joining us. No question, 2017 was a disappointing season for the Dallas Cowboys, but they expect to contend again in 2018. This half hour, we'll look at the biggest questions and concerns heading into the season. Joining me from the Star in Frisco are Babe Laufenberg and Nate Newton. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
We're back together again, Nate.
Yeah. we were together in what year was it?
1983.
83. He was a draft pick. I was a free agent with the Washington Redskins. Fortunately, they cut me because I hate them, and they got paid.
Well,
and they regretted both those decisions, both keeping me and cutting Nate. Yeah.
Well, fittingly, we're going to start with the offense and the offensive line. Center Travis Frederick was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. He's been an anchor on that offensive line. Nate, how will this offense adjust in his absence?
I think with Joe Looney, they'll adjust pretty well. But when you got a guy that can dominate and block nose guards by himself and get up on linebackers into the second level by himself, it's going to be an adjustment period. Where I think my man Frederick was so great at was he could tell the quarterback who the down linemen were handling. Offensive line, he would point to Mike, he would point to Will, and possibly he was good enough, babe, even to get out there to the safety if he was going to blitz. And that's where I think the quarterback will miss him, not only with the snaps and the being comfortable there, but knowing who the guy in passing situations.
Yeah, and I think, Nate, don't confuse this with what happened last year at that left tackle position when Tyron Smith was hurt and Chaz Green came in, and we know what happened in Atlanta. Joe Looney's a veteran player. He's got 10 starts under his belt. He knows this system. This will be his third year with the Cowboys, so it's not a guy that you picked up on waivers or traded for at the last minute, and he's trying to learn everything, including the snap count. I think I'm pretty confident that Joe Looney's going to do a good job, and obviously always hard to replace a Pro Bowl player and a player of Travis Frederick's caliber, yes. But I think Joe Looney will be solid.
The wide receiving core looks a lot different without Dez. The Cowboys picked up Allen Hurns, Tavon Austin, and drafted Michael Gallup. Plus, there's Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley. Babe, what do you think of this group?
Well, quite honestly, I'm a little concerned. I always say when you allocate resources to a particular position, usually that position is pretty good. And when you look at this offensive line, the Cowboys have allocated resources to their offensive line, and that offensive line is one of the best in football. They have not allocated resources to the wide receiver position, Nate, and I think it could come back to bite them a little bit.
It could, because you always look for that big play guy, that guy that can, when it's third and long, second and long, are you in the red zone? It's always a special receiver that the quarterback is looking for. But in this case, I think that with the emergence of Gallup as a young receiver, you can talk more to that. Receivers don't usually have a lot of success coming out in the draft, but this right. Michael Gallup has been consistent all through the preseason. And Allen Hurns, everybody keep throwing his name in there, babe. I don't know much about this guy, but how do you feel about it?
Well, he had a 10-touchdown, 1,000-yard receiving year in 2015. We haven't seen enough of him either, though, Nate. He was hurt in training camp. Tavon Austin missed some training camp. Deontay Thompson missed some training camp. So a lot of these guys, you just kind of crossing your finger. The guy we do know about is Cole Beasley.
Yes.
Right? But my fear is, Wes, that they sit there and they double up Cole Beasley in the slot on third down, and they did this last year. They took Cole Beasley out of the offense, said, we're going to make you beat us throwing the ball to the outside. I think that's going to happen again. Now the question is, can they beat him on the outside?
Hey, Jason Witten, he's gone too, in the broadcast booth, a future Hall of Famer. And his production won't be replaced. There's Jeff Swain, Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, and yes, Rico Gathers. Nate, what do you think about the options Dallas has at tight end?
Slim to none. After you get past Swain is a decent pass catcher. He can block real well. But I don't know about Schultz. I don't know about Blake. And Rico. I don't even know if Rico know about Rico. So it's a hard situation. I was thinking that maybe through committee they could cover up Jason Witten. But the more I think of it, after Jeff Swain, we may need to hit the streets and find someone. And I'm sincere about that, because you need a 2 tight end set with the running back that we have.
As you know, hitting the streets at this time of year, there aren't a lot of tight ends, just
Right.
Pro Bowl tight ends hanging around the street corner. One thing I do think, and we haven't seen it in the preseason, and that's because Scott Linehan obviously plays it very close to the vest, as do all teams offensively. Are we going to see that tight end spot of Jason Witten replaced with a wideout, more 4 wide receiver sets as opposed to 3 wides and a tight end? Witten never left the field. That could change.
Yeah, I agree with you on that right there. And another thing with Looney being out of there, because when we go short yardage, they had the jumbo Looney package.
Yeah.
That was Joe Looney. Now he's out starting center. So will they find another offensive line to be in there in short yardage situations to run the ball?
I think they will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other side of the ball for a minute. Randy Gregory has played in only 2 games for Dallas the last 2 seasons. The front office knew it was a little bit of a gamble, but after missing all of 2017, Babe, is there hope we see this defensive end live up to his potential this year?
Well, the Cowboys and Randy Gregory himself will tell you it's kind of a day-by-day proposition. But when you saw him in training camp, you just said, wow. It looked like the Cowboys had just traded for Khalil Mack, which the Chicago Bears did. It looked like the Cowboys had just drafted a guy in the first round, because all of a sudden this 94 showed up and they had a difficult time blocking him. I do see Randy Gregory really being utilized, at least at the start, working him back into this thing on 3rd down. You know, when we know the other team's going to pass, that's his forte, rushing the passer. And between Randy Gregory on one side, Nate, and then you got DeMarcus Lawrence on the other, could be a pretty impactful defensive front.
I'm with you, babe. This is a day-by-day deal. I pray for this kid every day. He's a unique situation because he has some mental issues that he deals with. And I don't know if I should be bringing that up, but he does.
Oh, it's pretty well documented now.
And so as long
I don't know if I should bring this up, but I've got some too.
Okay.
I mean, we've all been there, right?
But as long as he take it, like Babe said, and like the administration Ryan said, day by day, do not take one day for granted. Do not blank out and come back and realize you're not here. Every day has got to be a plan mapped that day. You got to be committed to every breath you take.
And very quickly, Wes, I will say there's been some guys come through this or any organization. You probably have them at your station, by the way. Well, they're not great people.
Right.
Randy Gregory's a good person. I think his heart's in the right place. He wants to do the right thing. He just needs some help along the way.
The defense looked really good during the preseason. Granted, it's the preseason, but Dallas has used a lot of draft picks the last couple of years on defense. Nate, do we see it pay off this year with a strong defense that can win you games?
You know what? My big question, and I'll tell this, babe, was Jalen. Jalen looks faster. Our whole defense looks faster. Now, you put Sean Lee directing this ship. I mean, everybody, we found Woods, Antoine Woods, big human log. Everybody is faster, everybody is stronger, and they committed to this thing. And with Gregory coming back, and like it lifted him up. But I'm telling you, I had questions about Jalen. Could he come back? I think through training camp, the OTAs, this kid looks quicker, and that can be a big plus. This defense is faster.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by everything I've seen in the preseason. When the starting unit played, albeit the preseason, they dominated the opposition. I think you've got 2 good corners. Chidobe could be a real special guy at one corner. You've talking about allocated resources. They've allocated resources to the defense. You got Randy Gregory, 2nd-round pick. DeMarcus Lawrence, 2nd-round pick. Your linebackers are a 1st-round pick in Leighton Vander Esch. Jalen, a 2nd-round pick. Sean Lee, a 2nd-round pick. So they should be good up front. And don't take my word for it. Sean Lee says he's more excited about this group of guys that he's playing with than any group that he's played with since he's been here. That's pretty good stuff.
Wow. Well, we're just getting started. We'll talk more about the team's young core when we come back, including a look at some of the draft picks and the stars heading into this season. You are watching the Silver Star Nation preseason special. Welcome back. The Cowboys drafted 9 players in April, but no one gets as much attention as the 1st-round pick. Babe, what do you think of this rookie class?
Well, you talk about that 1st-round pick. I kind of don't know anything about him other than he played 8-man football in high school. He graduated with a class of 11. 9 boys, 2 girls, by the way. I asked him, how did that work out on prom night?
I know, that's right.
He said, actually, we had the whole valley in for the prom. But we hadn't seen Leighton Vander Esch. He got injured early in camp, played one preseason game. So there's a little bit of an unknown there. Obviously, he's drafted in the first round for a reason, so we assume he's a good player. But we haven't seen it, Nate. But we will. We will shortly.
Not yet, but we've seen Armstrong. We've seen Michael Gallup. We've seen the rest of his, I guess he's Batman. And we've seen the Robin, the Riddler, the Joker, and all the rest of these guys. But I'm telling you, this kid got some athletic ability. And the little bit we did see in training camp was he was able to cover wide receivers. He was able to cover tight ends. He was able to cover running backs. Whatever came into his zone or whenever they asked him to go man, he was able to cover. Now, our question is he's a little bit physical versus the run. And I think that was a question coming in. Can he thump in the run? But I think that'll get better as time go on.
And for me, Wes, the biggest surprise was Dorrance Armstrong out of the 4th round. Played at Kansas, so flew a little bit under the radar up there, obviously. But this kid, Nate, he seems to really be coming. And if they find a pass rusher out of the 4th round in Dorrance Armstrong, now you have something.
Man, he got some bend. When he come around the corner, you look and see, first thing you want to know is how his hips. Can he bend down? Can he bend at the hips? Now, can he dip a shoulder? He can dip a shoulder. He can bend at the hips. And he's got great get off. His first step is 3 yards. And Charles Haley said, when you see a guy that can get 3 yards in his first step, he's something special.
Hey, we're also looking forward to some of the young guys that are returning, like Jalen Smith, Taco Charlton, Cheeto Bay. Babe, what are you expecting out of these guys now that they have a full year under their belt?
My man Taco. My man Taco has gotten stronger. He looks better. He rushed the passer better. All during training camp, you saw him grow. In the preseason, you saw him grow. So I'm expecting great things out of Mr. Taco Charger. The DBs, I let Babe talk about it.
No, but getting back to Taco too, Nate, it's funny because he came from a big program, right, Michigan.
Yes.
So you say, well, he had all the weightlifting, he had all that. They get bigger and stronger in the first year here. They don't have to go to class. They sit there in the off season and do nothing but train. The other thing about Taco, I always remember Rod Marinelli one time talking to him in training camp, and he said, I tell them all, you know that stuff that worked in college? It doesn't work up here. So all of a sudden, you got to put a whole new bag of tricks into your tool bag, and Taco is just starting to add to that. And as Nate said, receivers have a tough time transitioning in that first year. I think pass rushers do as well. All of a sudden,
they do.
They got all this stuff going, right, Nate? And I'm giving you my move and my spin, and you just stand and go, what, really? And then boom.
If you're a big fat guy in the middle, a big defensive tackle, you just go straight ahead. But if you're a defensive end and you're and we call them one-trick ponies, and it's all outside, it's easy to play you and it's easy to block you. So, but this kid has added something to his arsenal.
All right, stick around. When we come back, we'll look at the quarterback situation. Dak Prescott, has he taken the steps forward to bounce back? And what about the backup situation? You are watching the Silver Star Nation preseason special. Headed into his 3rd year after a phenomenal rookie season. Last year we saw some struggles. Well, what about this year? Babe, what did he need to work on, and are you satisfied? Has Dak made those improvements?
Well, like any player, you need to work on everything. And you're exactly right. After his rookie season, I told everyone, hey, this guy could play better, but the numbers won't be as good. They just couldn't be. He had 23 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Those are Tom Brady numbers. Only he duplicates those. Obviously, he lost his left tackle for 4 of the games last year. That hurt this team. His running back was gone for 6. In some of the games that Zeke was playing, he wasn't really all there. So obviously they get the running game going. It's going to help Dak Prescott. My big fear, again, as we talked about at the top of the show, do they have enough at the receiver position to beat people? Because during the course of a drive, especially when you're a running football team, you're going to have 4 or 5 third downs come up in that drive. 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. In the past, you had Witten, and you just ran Y option. You caught the ball, and you moved the chains. Who's going to be that guy this year? That's going to be a little bit of a question mark.
Much of Dak in the preseason, which means we got a good look at Cooper Rush and 5th-round draft pick Mike White out of Western Kentucky. Babe, are you comfortable with Cooper and White as the backups?
I am not. To answer your question.
You know what's amazing is last year this guy was unbelievable in the preseason. And I'm asking you, babe, as a quarterback and a guy who's coached, do you lose faith in Cooper Rush? I like Cooper Rush, and I haven't lost faith in him. Do you think? Yeah. I mean, where do you stand on him?
It's an interesting dilemma and a good question because if you liked him last year, He's had an off season now. He's had another training camp. He's seen more. So you should like him more this year. I just didn't think he played real well. I wasn't totally sold with the idea of making him the backup quarterback last year, to be quite honest. You're not at a Power 5 conference coming in. You're an undrafted player. That's hard. Right. I always go back to Tony Romo. Kind of similar situation, right? Eastern Illinois. He watched for 3 years. He didn't play until his 4th year, and he was ready when that happened. I just think it's a lot to put on a young player. I will say this. I do like Mike White in that 3rd developmental position. He showed me something and showed me that you say, hey, I want to put some time into this guy. I want to invest some time because he could be something for us down the road. Okay. But he's not there right now either. You know, rookie, it's just
So
hard.
should they go out, or should they just continue to monitor the waiver wire, or monitor who's out there? Because if something happened to Dak, will you feel comfortable with Cooper Rush? Give me some confidence.
Yeah, no, I would not. That doesn't mean, wait a minute now, that doesn't mean he can't do it, right?
Right.
If you had told me 2 years ago, would you feel comfortable with Dak Prescott, this 4th rounder?
That's right.
I said, no, I don't feel comfortable with the rookie. And then we saw what Dak did.
Okay.
But I hope they don't get fooled into thinking that Cooper
happens every year.
Yeah, well, we'll just plug in another guy.
Right.
And the other difference there, quickly, you know, Dak was a 4th round pick. He was a drafted player.
Yes, he was.
Cooper Rush was not. Now, Tony Romo wasn't drafted, so people can be wrong.
You say, 3 years of watching?
Yeah.
4th year start.
4th year ready to go.
Yes.
So we've learned Babe's not ready with the backup quarterback situation, and Nate's not real happy with the tight ends either. So we've gotten something out of this show. Hey, running back, the only time fans have seen Ezekiel Elliott run the ball is video from practice. So I'm curious about your thoughts on Zeke. Nate, how has he looked?
He looked great. He's got a six-pack. Normally his six-pack don't come to about the 3rd or 4th game, but he had a six-pack coming into training camp. I think he's matured a little bit. He still likes to have fun. He's still that guy that goes to practice and have fun. But we saw in the blue-white scrimmage where he had been just joking around doing practice, and he did a little something in the blue-white scrimmage that said, hey, I'm ready. Don't sleep on Zeke. I think he's ready.
Well, I think with what he was going through last year, whether you want to say he put himself through that or not, it's going to be a different Zeke Elliott this year. He's going to be out there just playing football. He does look, as Nate said, I thought he looked great in training camp. Kind of always hard to tell with a running back because until you get into contact and you start it up, they don't take you to the ground in training camp. It's what I always said about Emmitt Smith. You know, Emmitt didn't look special just sitting there running in shorts or in non-contact drills. When he got special was the game started and they could not get him to the ground. So Zeke is much the same player. I look for a big, big year from Zeke Elliott.
All right, we got to talk about the kicker. That's coming up next. We're back to wrap it up after this. You are watching the Silver Star Nation preseason special. Well, the Cowboys have a new kicker. Dan Bailey is gone. Enter Brett Maher. Babe, your thoughts?
If there was a bigger shocker coming out of camp, I don't know one. Now, I always say every team seems to have that one guy where you say, they cut who? And for me this year, it was Dan Bailey. And I was saying during training camp, we have this little game and we say, okay, who's going to be the surprise cut of camp? And then you throw out a name, and then you say, well, they're not going to cut so-and-so, Nate. And you say, well, but you said surprise, so by nature. If somebody had told me Dan Bailey was going to get cut coming out of camp, I'd have said, come on, that's crazy. Let's go with somebody else here. But that's what happened.
You know what? I don't even know how to pronounce this guy who's the kicker now, and that's how I always treated kickers. You know, when we played, Babe, hey, man, just kick the ball through the uprights. I knew Dan Bailey through associates before he got here, and this guy, Chuck Cooperstein, which he's not
higher authority.
Yeah, you know, the Mavericks. He's the voice of the Mavericks. He said, Nate, this guy's going to make your team, and he's going to be there 10 years. He made the team, but he didn't quite make it 10 years, and yes, I was shocked.
All right, guys, the East looks solid with the Super Bowl champs, and the Giants should be tougher with Odell Beckham back and a better running game. Guys, do these Cowboys look like a playoff team to you?
Certainly in the discussion to me, Nate, right? I mean, in the discussion.
Hey, it's only 6 spots, and right now I got the Cowboys at 6.5, and that's falling out if we have another injury to the offensive line. Right now they're in the 6th spot as a wild card, and I think it's going to take 11 wins. Do they have 11 wins? Can you find it?
I do know this. Nobody has repeated in the NFC East as champion since 2004. That was the Eagles. So even with the Giants winning 2 Super Bowls where you had to say, boy, they're the favorite coming into the next season, they never repeated as NFC East champions. The Cowboys didn't do it. Cowboys had a 13-3 season, best record in the NFC. They came back, didn't make the playoffs the next year. So there's a lot of variables going in year to year. And I think the days, Nate, like when you played in that 90s team, that great 90s team, you always seemed to play San Francisco in November because the networks wanted that game for the ratings, of the November ratings. And it was always, you guys were going to be 9-2 and they were going to be 10-1. Or you were going to be 8-3 and they were 9-2. You knew that was a big game the minute the schedule came out in April. Now, you can't really predict in November who's going to be the big game because it changes so quickly.
I agree with you, but the Eagles did not do anything to hurt themselves, to take us. They didn't lose nobody of quality off their team. If anything, they gained. The New York Giants went out and got Barkley. I mean, they helped themselves. They just signed their wide receiver. They got a left tackle. I like Eli. I mean, he's erratic sometimes, but I like Eli. The whole NFC East has improved.
And you go back to it, Wes, Philadelphia, year before, finished last.
Yes.
Then they went on to win the Super Bowl. So they can come from anywhere. Now we know that in the NFL.
Nate, Babe, great job. We're out of time. We've analyzed enough. It's time to play ball. Guys, thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you.
It's the Cowboys and Carolina Panthers Sunday at 3:30. That's it for the preseason special. It's on to the games. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, everybody.